All right, welcome back. I've said a few times that I think the Hogue Deka is a pretty cool knife, value-wise, versus like a Benchmade bug out. I do like the bug out for some of the finishings. That way the handle feels, to me, is a little better and stuff. And for that reason, you know, I want to upgrade this FRN handle. Again, very hollow sounding, and it's not that bad in hand, but it definitely like bites you a little bit on the inside here. It's pretty sharp and just feels not great. So you got this nice made in USA Magnacut, you know, blade, and then you got these scales. So let's get into it. I haven't looked at these yet, but I ordered 2 versions from OG Goat, and I figured I'd just on the fly here decide which one I liked more and throw them on the knife. So let's take one of each out and hold it over the knife. See what we think. Really, really nice. Man, that's super light, and man, that is just really nice millwork for the price. It's pretty crazy. So there's the first option, which is the one I'm leaning towards, which is why I grabbed it first. Although I have to say it's a little shiny now that I'm getting it here in person. I'd probably, if I could go back, I don't know if I would do that same color. And there's the second one. Let's see. I think I like this one more. But I have to say that's not the, I don't love the finish on that. It doesn't quite match the blade in the way I would normally like. I probably would just go with like more of a, you know, working finish or something in hindsight, but it's all good. This is basically the same thing without that, I don't know, that's a little more simple and straightforward. See how it feels. Yeah, we'll go for this guy. It's a little more interesting. This is pretty nice looking though, I have to say. Very classy. All right, let's get into it. We're going for it. Just take a quick look before we make any final decisions what the clip side would look like. Yeah, I think that'll be a nice looking knife, so let's go for it. What size hardware do we have here? Is this T6? Thank goodness, I think it's T8. Maybe I can avoid stripping everything out. And I've never actually taken apart a knife with an axis lock, which is surprising because I've carried one quite a bit, but never had to. So let's see. I'm assuming the way to do it is to start on this side where the pivot is. It seems like it's all T8 too, which is really nice. Let's bring a little more light over here if I can. There we go. I imagine I'm going to have to take out the hardware on both sides of these, but you never know. So let's make sure this is nice and organized. I always like to lay things out the way they came out. Helps me put them back together. If I'm understanding what I'm seeing correctly, Is it possible to take off one side at a time, maybe? We'll see. I might get lucky here. I don't think so, though. I'm assuming the whole... Cool. Whoa. Did not realize that that's what that looked like. That's a trip. Now I see why those break. Yeah, that's it's a funny way to do that. I don't know who came up with that, but that's very interesting. So interesting. For some reason I thought there was some liner in this, but that is why it's so crazy light. Let's see what the weight difference is here. You know, this is it's not quite as light as the scale of a bug out, but it is very light. So I can just put this on top of everything real quick. And we'll go ounces. 0.20 ounces. This is my very sensitive scale. 0.58. So this is going to add quite a bit of weight, which is fine. This knife does not need to be as light as it is. But that's crazy how light the factory one is. So take a look at the difference there. Not going anywhere. This is going to feel good. Okay, and pocket clips. This one is a righty only. Interesting. Whereas the factory is reversible. So to note. Let's see. Maybe we can get away with this though. Where I just keep the scale on. See if I can do it. I like to have less parts of the knife apart at a time if possible, but it's not a huge deal if this one has to, isn't going to work out that way. I'm not too worried about it. It looks pretty simple in there overall, not crazy. I do like how I don't, and I don't know if it's just because it's factory seated, but I don't have to have a driver on the other side, a hex driver on the other side so far. You know, I could actually see this ending up kind of cool in a hybrid with one side blue. That could actually feel pretty good potentially. It's kind of neat looking. So hopefully I don't regret putting these back in and having to take them back out. Don't know for sure, but we'll see. I know on that side I'm definitely gonna have to take the pocket clip out. I'm curious if that's a T8 also. That'd be really nice. Is it? Wow, T8 also on the pocket clip. Now it's not flush, which is one of the, one criticisms I remember having. I think, I could be wrong, but I remember maybe it was a different knife. I'm pretty sure it was this knife. There we go. So pocket clip. Ooh, that one is hard to get to. There we go. So it's a deep carry, but yeah, it doesn't have the flush mounted screws. So anyways, boom. Okay, so if we're lucky, we might be able to pull this off without having to fully take the axis lock apart and stuff. And I'm sure there's some instructions I could have watched before doing this, and that probably would have helped me do it better. But sometimes it's fun to learn as you go. And sometimes it's extremely frustrating. There are some knives I would not recommend doing this with. One of those would be the Winter Blade Factor. It is not as obvious as you'd hope it would be, and then magnets shoot into each other, so you like kind of lose track of stuff very easily. So I would not recommend going in blind on a winter blade factor. Not advisable from my perspective. So we'll see if I can pull the pivot all the way out, just kind of using the scales to pry it out here. Yeah, it's not like the hardest scale ever, so I don't really want to put a ton of pressure on it, but I feel like if I just keep wiggling, it's probably going to come out. No? Yeah. This is one of those moments where it's good to be a Victorinox guy. Yeah, I don't know if I love that. There we go. All right. So interesting here. Now I'm curious, do these just run on phosphor bronze? For some reason I thought this was a bearing knife. Anyway. That would certainly explain why that was a little harder to do than I had hoped. Let's see if I can sneak it back in there now. Shows you about how much I knew about this knife. Didn't even know it ran on washers versus bearings. So definitely going into this pretty blind. And so far the trickiest part is just getting these to kind of stay in place because it's on washers. It's it doesn't want to stay with the blade. But we're going to get it there. We're going to get it, all right. All right, let's get my hand cleaned up a little bit because that washer had some grease on it. And I'm just going to move that over like that. Line them up. Realize what I'm kind of doing wrong here too, which is not getting the bolt lined up just right with the you know, the part of it. So I was putting it in, not realizing that it needed to go with the flat part down. I think it was the error of my ways there. All right, now let's do this the right way. Okay, get this all in the right spot. Scale on. Okay. Now we're starting to head in the right direction. What I have to do is just come over here and make sure the blade and the washer, I can feel I'm through the first washer and the scale. Now I just need this washer. There we go. I think we're all lined up for success there. There we go. Just had to pull the locking mechanism back. And then before I lose it, just go ahead and throw in the pivot hardware. And we are off to the races here. So yeah, a little trickier than I thought. Obviously didn't know I had to deal with washers, or I would have done that a little differently. Not tried to cheat my way through it like I did. And then just get this guy cleaned up so that washer grease got on here. Okay. But overall, feels immediately better. I'm not like blown away. It's not transformational or anything, but better nonetheless. And I'm looking forward to getting it all back together and seeing how it feels. Do love this with these really small screws, this fingernail pinch method, where you hold it on there with your fingernail. I got that from RC plane hobby, a little RC car stuff too, but RC planes in particular, everything's so small and light. That's been that was always a really big help. Learned that from Brian Phillips RC on YouTube, actually. Good dude. If you ever listen to Metal Complex on the knife side, you'd swear if you just listen to the guys, they sound like they're brothers. So funny. And of course, you know, probably my two favorite hobby YouTubers that I've ever seen. You know, there are other channels of people that can do better plane stunts than Brian Phillips and better knife manipulation than Metal Complex, but you know, personalities at the end of the day, what we're really paying for with our time. So let's take a look here. Boom. Get the pocket clip on, and we are done. Oops, that's not the right one. I've said it before in some of my videos when I'm disassembling knives, but I never over tighten things until everything's kind of in and seated, and then I'll crank things down at the end once I know everything's flush and where it should be. So Make sure the pocket clip is flush and flat. Everything looks good there. Make sure this guy's action is correct. Looks good there. All right, let's get to work. That is definitely a little bit of a tricky angle there. You can barely get to that. All right, boom, 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 boom. All right, and then we're just work our way in nice and easily here, not overdoing it. Make sure we're getting the blade nice and straight as we do it. I'm a little off to the pocket clip side. And yeah, I'm way over tight. So let's do this a little differently. Okay, 0 blade play. Does it still work? Nope. It's not bad. Just give it a smidge less. So it's aluminum. These are aluminum scales. I don't know if I mentioned that at the beginning. They're not titanium. You can always tell on original goat because it'll say the element. So aluminum there as opposed to titanium. How do I like the way it looks? Do I regret not going with the simple one? It looks a little more utilitarian with this, but it does feel really good in the hand. So I probably like the look of this a tad bit more though. But it's fine. Okay. See how our centering is. Now I tinkered around with that a little bit. Still a little off center there. So I'm still getting a little to the pocket clip side. Okay. Yeah, for some reason I'm getting a little of the pocket clip side, so I'm not sure if I need to readjust something significantly there, but that's not ideal. But yeah, it does feel like a much better knife. It does feel aluminum though, I gotta admit. I think I'm just a sucker for titanium. I don't think I realized that there was such a tactile feel difference until now. By the way, this particular model, I think I have an option for jimping, and I chose the jimping up here to kind of match up, and I really like it. It's really nice. Gives you a really nice feeling hand. I mean, the knife definitely feels better, but I don't think it occurred to me that aluminum is still not a very premium feeling material. Even steel, I think, feels more premium than aluminum. So where do we end up on the weight? I think the factory weight's like what, 2.25 ounce on this. So if we added 0.3, we're probably gonna end up around 2.7. 2.8. Not bad, not blown away. That's kind of my take. I think I might be one of those suckers that has to drop the $200 on the titanium scales instead of the $75 on the aluminum ones, unfortunately. Know thyself. But the question is, do I want to drop $200 scales on a $127 knife? That's a little hard for me to swallow, frankly. So, but I don't know. For me, this doesn't, feels better. It definitely feels better than the FRN. Yeah, it's definitely a step up. No doubt. This is, you know, this stuff just doesn't feel great, frankly. So compared to this, it feels better. But I feel like these are $10 scales or something like that. You know, it's not a good thing to compare to. Now, would this feel better? And part of it might just be that I chose, you know, this version of it as opposed to this one. So maybe this would feel better. We're not going to do that one on video. But I might just go ahead and switch that and see what I think. So I hope you enjoyed that and the general consensus, which is an improvement, but not like a, you know, it's definitely an improvement. You know, if you really want to go put Magnacut to the test, but you just can't get over these scales and you're not trying to break the bank, you're trying to be under 200 bucks. There are not a lot of knives that are, you know, this good for under 200 bucks. So it is a great alternative, and it's not going to turn it into something that feels like, you know, a titanium Demco or Hinderer or, you know, Roosevelt or something like that. So just worth noting. All right, please like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. All right, short little follow-on version, or video rather. I didn't spend a ton of time on it the second time. I was able to, you know, I knew what I was doing the second time, so it just took a few minutes to swap out these aftermarket scales for these. I just wanted to see if I got an overall better impression from the knife once these are on here. I'd say I do. It's a little smoother and more refined feeling. This certainly has a little more grip on it. So if you're going utilitarian, you might want to get this one. I think it's called the Wing or something, designed from OG Goat. But this feels a little better. It still feels a little cheapo, but not quite as much to me as the other one did. Probably because you're not hitting, when you hit this, you know, they all have sounds, right? When you hit this, that sound just kind of resonates in throughout the hollow body, throughout the knife and stuff. So when they're all together, it just, I don't know, I could feel the aluminum a little more, whereas this one, it's a little less obvious that it's aluminum. It just feels like a handle more than that one. Super solid now. You know, really a solid feeling knife now. The balance of the knife feels like it's a little better now. See, it's maybe a little, it's pretty darn good. Like that's, you want it to balance where you're gonna grab it. So I'd say it balances quite a bit better than it did before. So you can see I'm getting a little handle. Yeah, it's pretty darn good. It's not a super obvious balance point, it's just a light knife in general. But the grip feels really good now. Like when I'm just grabbing it, it feels way better than it did. This is knocked down in here, so that must have been one of the feedback points they got on these scales. And you could just take these off and sand them, so don't get me wrong. You don't need to spend 75 bucks on that if you're just annoyed by this sharp edge, but that's the worst part, the worst hot spot on the knife, is that inside of the scale. So either, you know, sand that off or, you know, upgrade, but man, it feels a lot better in hand now. Now it feels like a knife I would love to carry, actually. It was not one before. It like maybe made it in my pocket once. But now it's very compelling, actually. So we'll see. This might get some use. So tell me what you think on that. I think that was, I kind of think this is the better scale choice for me. It comes out looking pretty good, It's definitely not the best looking knife in my collection, but it's definitely much more compelling now that I've done that. So sell these scales off. I don't know, probably just give them away 50 bucks or something like that. So if you're interested, feel free to ping me, and I may still have them. By the time you're listening to this, I may have already sold them, but those will go away, and these will go in the drawer, and we will see where this knife goes in the collection, what kind of use it gets and stuff. I will note the inside of here, you can see a little bit of the wear already from, you know, I even rubbed that down a few times, but it's still on there. It like pretty quickly starts to wear on there from the locking mechanism. So it does, you know, just like most full metal scales, take a little wear on it. You can see the difference here on the FRN scale. Even though this has been on here for months, you know, it's scratched in there, but you don't really notice it. Doesn't matter, right? But this is all on the inside. And I'm sure it doesn't really affect the life very much or whatever of the scale and the longevity of the knife and stuff. But anyways, thought it was worth noting that I noticed that little wear spot in there. And there you go, Hogue Deka OG Goat. You know, now that's all made in the US, right? OG Goat's US. That's a $75, $125, basically a $200 super lightweight, you know, sub 3-ounce knife. So hard to beat it for what it is. It is, you know, if you were to try and get a bug out like that, it'd probably cost $250, $275. I don't know what it is, but quite a bit more if I were to guess. And in this case, one of the cool things about this is if you use the knife a lot, you could always then take it apart, sell it like this for, you know, 90 or 100 bucks or whatever, and then sell your scales for probably pull 50 bucks back out of them. So, you know, you can kind of recoup some of your cost on these type of investments. So anyways, a little extra 5 minutes since I swapped over to these other scales, and definitely like it that much more. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.